Hello. I'm going to keep my sunglasses on while I talk to you, and it's not just because it makes me look cool. Um, it's also because these lights are a little bit hard for a blind guy, but we'll get to that. What I want to start with here is the idea that seeing less is not the same thing as seeing worse. And that may be a little difficult for fully sighted people to understand. But the big point that I want to get across today is that if you're visually impaired, if you're blind, if you have a disability, that means many things. It means you've learned to overcome some challenges. It means that you have a different perspective than a lot of folks do. It means there's a lot you can't do and some things that you can do. Most importantly, it means that you can be involved in helping to build a community. But before we get to any of that, I'd like to start by explaining a little bit of the nature of my own disability, my own visual impairment. So, no matter what I do, no matter what kind of glasses I wear, no matter what kind of low vision aids I use, the best sight that I will ever have is 20/200. And if you know how the 20/20 scale works, then you know that the higher that second number, the worse your vision. But that might not tell you a lot. So if you think about the 20/20 scale as a relativistic scale, what it really means is that if you have 20/20 or perfect vision, what you can see from 200 feet away, I would have to be 20 feet away from the same thing to see it the same way you do. This doesn't mean that I don't see it at all, and it certainly doesn't mean that the image is blurry or distorted or confusing. It just means that I don't really see it in the way that you see it. So for instance, with these trees, if I was walking along with someone who was fully sighted, and they pointed down the way, and they said, "Hey Jake, look at that tree down there," I'd probably look, and I'd squint, and I'd shrug my shoulders, and I'd say, "Well, I believe you." And we'd keep walking closer and closer to the tree. As we got closer and closer to the tree, I'd start to see some of it. I'd start to see some green on the top and some brown on the bottom. And as we got to that 20-foot mark, that's when I'd start to see all the different colors of the leaves. I'd start to see all the details in the bark. Okay, again, at this point, I'm seeing it the way you saw it 200 feet ago. But now the issue becomes we're no longer 200 feet away. And what you see again is still not what I see, because I'm just now seeing what you could see way back there. This is why it can be really difficult for me to answer the question, so what exactly can you see? Well, I don't know how to answer that all the time because I've never seen what the rest of you see. I was born this way. And the thing about that is I've now spent about 40 years trying to figure out how to talk to sighted people and how to explain what it looks like from my point of view. So one more thing that you need to know about my visual impairment is it's a form of albinism. It's called ocular albinism. Like any other kind of albinism, what that essentially means is that I don't have much pigment. And because I don't have much pigment, particularly in my eyes, not only do I have poor vision, but I also have extreme light sensitivity, hence the sunglasses. Some of you may be a little familiar with this. You might have a point of reference if you think about snow blindness. If you've lived in Ohio most of your life, you've probably been outside on a sunny winter's day and then turned around and gone back into your much more dimly lit home. And as you try to make that transition, what you realize is it's a little disorienting. Everything's a little out of focus. It's not quite how it's supposed to be. And maybe there might even be a little bit of a headache for you as you try to adjust your vision. Those vision headaches are really familiar to me. That snow blindness, it doesn't just happen to me once in a while in the winter. It happens to me every time someone turns the lights on or off, especially if I don't know that that's coming. As a matter of fact, my family, has taken to announcing all light changes. So before they hit a light switch, they say lights, and they do this so often that when my son's friends come over, they've often mistakenly thought that our lights work on a voice command system. But I do appreciate their help with that. So all of these things, this light sensitivity and this theoretically poor vision relative to other folks, what it means is that I have a disability. And in my experience, a lot of folks, particularly sighted folks, particularly fully abled folks, a lot of them really hate that word, disabled. They're uncomfortable with that first part, that dis. They want to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. They want to forget that there's things we can't do. They don't want to make us feel guilty or feel bad that we're not able to do things. But having a disability means embracing all of that. It means embracing the things that you can't do, embracing the things that you can do, and understanding how to bridge that gap, how you're going to have to do things differently if you want to be able to do them. Okay, as a couple examples here. I can't drive a car. Obviously, it would be pretty dangerous if I did. I can't fill out paperwork at the doctor's office usually. For that matter, I can't usually read the menu in most restaurants. So does that mean that if I can't drive, I can't go to work? Well, of course not. I have 2 feet. I can walk to work. I can ride my bicycle to work. Or I can catch the RTA and join the beautiful community of people who ride the bus. Okay? If I need to go to the doctor, I'm going to have to fill out their paperwork. So I'm going to have to ask for some help with that, either from a receptionist or if my wife is with me or a friend. And if I'm at a restaurant, it's certainly not that I'm not going to figure out a meal. I'm not going to miss a meal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask someone at my table to help me read, or I'm just going to ask the server what tastes good that day. Okay? So it's all about figuring out how you're going to function in the world. And when you do that, you start to develop a love of your disability. No offense to any of you who have better sight than me, but I would not want to see how you see. If somebody could fix my eyesight tomorrow, I'm not interested. For a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, I really like this unique perspective that I have. But more than that, I like being who I am. And a big part of who I am is being blind. So I don't want to change that. And that kind of comfort with your own disability, that's something that does take work, and it takes time, and it's something that you need help with. And a lot of people in my life have been very helpful to me. Probably the most helpful person was the first and best teacher I ever had, and that was my mom. My mom had 3 children, my older brother, my younger sister, and stuck in the middle was me. I was the only one of her 3 kids that had a disability. But my mom had a mission. Her mission was to raise good, independent people. And so that meant I wasn't going to be allowed to skip chores because I couldn't see. I wasn't going to be allowed to not do well in school because I couldn't see very well. I was going to have to learn how to compete and how to do everything that my siblings could do and maybe a little more. So my mom got to work. She got creative and she got innovative. For example, she taught me how to vacuum the floor barefoot because she figured if I couldn't see the mess on the carpet, I could run my bare foot across it and I could feel it until I knew it was clean. It's actually worked really well. It's how I still vacuum today. The only time it got me into any trouble was when I worked at a pizza shop and they wanted me to vacuum the dining room. Yeah. So I quickly got told I didn't have to do that good a job. It wasn't just with chores though. My mom also helped me with education. It was 6th grade when we really started getting a lot of chapter books and a lot of like really heavy reading. And I just physically could not read that much, that long every night. And so every evening, my mom would sit at the dining room table with me, and she would read novel after novel after novel while I filled out all the book reports and the study guides and did all the homework. She got me through school like that. And she also got me through school by helping me to navigate the IEP process. If you're a student with a disability, legally, you're supposed to be given what are called reasonable accommodations. These are things that are supposed to make a fairly even playing field between you and your peers. The accommodations that I had mostly pertain to enlarging text for me. Okay? When an IEP is written, especially when I was a kid, the child was never involved in the process. The parents would be there, the teachers would be there, and intervention specialists would be there, but no one ever was concerned about the student. And that really bothered my mom. She figured that if these plans were supposed to affect me, then at the very least, I should be aware of them, but really, I should have some sort of say in them. So I've been going to IEP meetings ever since second grade. And by the time I was in high school, I was running my own IEP meetings. I was standing up to teachers and principals and I was saying, yeah, you really do have to enlarge my homework every single time. And yes, if I can't read your chalkboard, I'm going to get out of my seat and I'm going to walk up to the board and I'm going to read it. And I'd also say things like, yeah, I actually can try out for the basketball team and the track team, and you know what? I might just be able to throw a shot put further than anybody else, so maybe you want to let me. Granted, I didn't know where I was throwing it, but I could throw it far. These skills helped me out a lot, not just as a student to give me confidence, but since then, as I became a teacher and I had my own students. I've had a lot of students who had IEPs, so they needed help in navigating that same system. But it's not just students with disabilities that I've been able to be helpful to. Every single semester, when I get a new group of students, I always tell them about my disability. I tell them a lot of the same stories I'm telling you today. What this does is it makes me vulnerable in front of my students. They know that I'm going to have to ask for their help from time to time. They know that I might teach class wearing sunglasses sometimes. They know that if I can't read their handwriting, I might ask them to read it to me. Every single time that I ask my students for help, they always help. And because I'm willing to be vulnerable with them, they're more likely to be vulnerable with me and ask for help when they need it. This is why being blind has literally made me a better teacher. And it's really come in handy in job interviews. Because when you say those things to a principal or to a dean, trust me, you almost always get the teaching job, which is wonderful, but is also a little upsetting to me when I read about the unemployment rate for the blind and the visually impaired. It's astronomically high. And I think that the reason for that is not because blind people don't want to work or because blind people can't work. It's because when an employer sees a candidate who's using a white cane or a guide dog or who needs adaptive software loaded onto the company computers so they can function properly, when an employer sees that candidate, all they see are challenges and obstacles. And furthermore, those are challenges and obstacles that one candidate has that 15 other candidates don't have. And so their choice becomes really simple. They never pick the challenge. But that's exactly the problem. What they haven't seen is that overcoming that challenge is itself a skill set. It's a skill set that just might be valuable to you and to your team and to your community. Not only that, but that person who is blind or visually impaired, again, they do see less than you, but they're not seeing worse than you. They have a different perspective than you. And while I have the chance, I do want to clear one thing up too. When I say that blind people have superpowers, it's not because we're Daredevil. We don't have echolocation hearing, no matter what folks tell you. As a matter of fact, it's not actually true that one sense automatically improves when another sense diminishes. There's nothing automatic about it. If you want that to happen, you're going to have to put in a lot of work to refine your hearing and hear well. And a lot of blind people just so happen to have done that, which again is another benefit that they can bring to the table. Our theme today is community, and as I understand it, community is built when people who have different perspectives try really hard to understand what the world looks like from somebody else's point of view. I think blind folks could help a lot with that. Thank you very much.